That's not what we're debating right here. That's not what we're debating right now. What we're talking about right now is how you will cast your vote. How will you cast your vote?
You asked me a question that insulted the Democratic Party, insulted millions of Americans.
I think those leaked emails did enough insulting, and they speak for themselves. And you're never going to be able to erase that, by the way. In fact, to be quite frank with you, these exercises that you're doing continue to smack the will of the American public. I honestly think your cause and your party is taking a step backward. But we'll leave it there.
Thank you for the political advice there, Charles.
We'll see what happens on Monday.
Thank you for the political advice. Thank you for the political advice.
Listen, you're going to need a lot more political advice than that. You're not standing up for democracy. You're making a mockery of the vote, and you're making a mockery of the very voters who told you they were tired of you and your party dismissing them for all of these years. You should go back on your hands and knees and say, we're sorry. We'll try to get it right next time, but we're not going to try to erase what you just asked the American public to do.
I don't think I need to take your advice to get on my hands and knees and do anything.
Oh, joining me now, Jillian Melchior, Capri, Cafaro, and Gina Loudon. Capri, let me ask you, you're involved in state politics, and the votes will happen in individual states, these electors.
That's right. On Monday, here in the chamber of the Ohio Senate, as a matter of fact, on Monday.
So, you know, the idea that this has bubbled up to the degree it is, I think, is fascinating, and I'm glad. In one sense, I'm glad it has, because the American public is learning that there's another level of power out there I don't think people even understood before. So how does this process work?
You know, obviously, I mean, what happens is that, I mean, I can only speak for the exact process that happens in Ohio, but, I mean, there are individual electors that are chosen by both the Democratic slate and the Republican slate, and whomever, you know, wins that state, obviously, those individuals go and cast their vote by signing in a book that ultimately goes to Washington, D.C., and casting their vote for the individual, traditionally speaking, that has won that state for the President of the United States. Now, we've heard a lot in this election cycle after the victory of Donald Trump about, quote-unquote, faithless electors, where, I mean, you do have the right to change your vote, but obviously that flies in the face of the choice of the popular vote of that state. So, you know, listening to you speak with Ms. Pelosi was giving me a little bit of a headache, frankly. You know, we as Democrats, we need to move on. I understand that people are concerned about Russia interfering in the democratic process. I think that it warrants some kind of a bipartisan, you know, look through the congressional hearing process. But as far as these electors are concerned, I mean, you know, if they want the information, they should be able to get it. But apparently the national security folks have decided that they can't. So since they're not allowed to have it, then let's move on.
Well, you know, Gina, here's the thing, though. I mean, a lot of people rightfully believe that this is trying to make a mockery of the entire system. You've got a bunch of Hollywood actors, most of them who've been, you know, haven't been seen in a long time, who've made a video trying to persuade these folks. And I would think that this is something that's done in mostly secrecy. You know, you don't go out there and start to lobby or be lobbied for this kind of stuff. But ultimately, aren't they really just trying to cast a sort of negative shadow over the presidency of Donald Trump before it even starts?
Well, first, let me say kudos to you, Charles. That was the absolute rudest guest, Ms. Pelosi, that I've ever seen on television, and I've been doing this a little while, and you got her right back, and I thought that was awesome.
I was drinking Jack Daniels while she was talking. Yeah.
Oh, I bet you were. I was, too, watching you guys. But here's the thing, Charles. This is a flawed premise from the get-go. Let's remember, he was phished. He gave up his password. This illuminates, Charles, a problem not in the Republican Party, not in the Donald Trump campaign, but in the intelligence, in this security concern, and even the competence of the Obama and Hillary administration. Charles, if you send me an email right now and ask me for my password to my email, and I give it to you, you didn't hack me. I gave you my password. So let's start with that premise before we get all upset about this.
Jillian, I mean, there's a, you know, and let's end with the premise that Hillary Clinton was the weaker candidate by far, and it wasn't the hack in my mind. It was the contents of what we've learned about the Democrats during the process.
Sure, we know that she was a very flawed candidate. I think the hacks were important. I think they're worthy of concern, but they certainly weren't decisive in this choice. I mean, I think one thing I want to call out from last night's interview, and I think this is worth calling out, She tried to take what you were saying and spin it in a very vulgar way. And I think people are sick of the left doing that. I think they're sick of that war on women, PC, we're going to take you super literally and warp your words. And I think that's, frankly, a huge part of the reason why her party lost.
I agree with you. Either they spin it that way, or they spin it to the gender problem, like you're disrespecting me because I'm a woman. Believe me, they spin it on race. I mean, whatever they can.
We have to focus on content. That's why we lost. We were not focusing on issues. We were focusing on these kind of, flashier issues that try to grab headlines and try to make, get things go viral on Twitter. That's not how you govern. We need to take a close look on who we are as Democrats.
No one's buying the gotcha stuff anymore, and they may have to maybe get some celebrities, at least from the 90s on, maybe from here on out. That might help. I'm not saying the model is broken. I'm just saying, you know what? The star of MASH 71 just ain't doing it anymore. All right, guys, thank you a lot.